Hey there, it's Marlene. In this video I'm going to show you step-by-step instructions on how to photograph products like this on a white background. Aren't these just the coolest? Original vintage roller skates. Step 1, setting up your white background and do a custom white balance. So you're probably wondering how far my lights are from my product, from the skate. And in this case, they're about 30 inches and they're both about the same distance, about 45 degrees angle from the skate. Of course, you can move it around if you have reflections and things like that you're dealing with. Next, you want to get sort of a base exposure. You don't want to be too bright where your highlights are blown out, and you don't want to be too dark where the white background is going gray. So you got to find a happy medium. And I also wanted to show some of the styling of the boot, which is right here. It's the original Rydell logo there, embossed in there. Now I will be close cutting the final images as well, but I want to start off with the best possible original that I can. And here's a secret. I'm shooting these as JPEG. You heard that right. I'm shooting product photos as JPEG. I'll tell you why, because if you can shoot it right in the camera, you have way less to do in editing, and I don't like to spend very much time on the computer. So when you're shooting product photos, you have to make sure that you don't have any distortion in your product. So you don't want to use a wide-angle lens or a super long telephoto lens. So in this case, my normal focal length of my lens is 25 millimeters, and that is for Micro Four Thirds cameras. Of course, I'm shooting this on my G9. And you also want to have really good depth of field. So I wanted to go for at least f/16, because when your client zooms into the image, when they're going to buy something on a website, they zoom in to see if they want to buy it. They're looking for all those details. And because these are vintage skates, people definitely want to see what they're made of. So in the end, I went with f/16, 1/8 of a second, custom white balance, and let's take the shot. Okay, let's play it back and have a look at the histogram. There we go, we'll display the histogram. Here we are, red, green, blue, and here's all the colors. And what that shows me is that there's a lot of white in this photo, but it doesn't blow out the highlights. So there's white, but nothing is lost, especially in the skate. That's what I'm mostly worried with here. I don't want to lose detail in the skate. Another thing I had to look out for in these is because the type on here is silver, it sometimes reflected black. So I had to make sure that I had something white in front of this writing so that it would reflect white. Otherwise, it would kind of get lost in the blue. This kind of attention to detail is really important when you're doing product photography, because you need to realize that people will zoom in to those photos when they're on someone's website. People want their products to look as good and beautiful as possible. So what about the actual lights that I've used? Well, I have a pair of LEDGO flat panel LED lights, and I have them approximately 45 degrees from the product, and I've diffused the light using a Lee filter, and as well I have the diffusion screen in front of the LED themselves. By the way, I use these LEDGO flat panel LED lights for pretty much everything. I shoot portraits with them, products, my YouTube videos. I really love them. It took me a while to get used to them because I was using strobes in my previous life, but I'm embracing them. By the way, if this video's helped you, please give it a thumbs up, or you can buy me a coffee. Link to that is in the video description below. Okay, we're on the home stretch. I'm going to show you how I edited these using Lightroom Classic. So first thing you want to do is just double check your histogram, and yes, you have not lost any detail in the highlights here, but the background isn't quite white. So let's go into the develop module. You can see if you hover your mouse over, you can see your red, green, blue values here are not quite at 100%. 100% is pure white. So we can bump up the exposure a bit. But we can also just bump up the white. So we can take the white slider and go to the right. Now, one thing I do like to do when I'm editing photos, especially on a white background, is I like to see the highlight clipping warning. So I'm going to click that on. And when that's on, you can tell if things are blown out. Now I'm just going to extremely do this. So as I pull the exposure over to the right, you can see that things turn red, and that's because that is going to pure white. So if I hover over that now, it's almost at 100%. So it's very close to pure white. but I don't want to make my skate super bright. I want the skate to still retain its nice richness. So you can pump up your whites and that will help. That will help a lot, and that might even just do it for you. So you can start there. You can take this off and just double check, and you can do a before and after with your shot. So there's the one on the left, it's slightly gray, and there's the one on the right. Now I think we could push this a little bit further. I think I could get rid of a little more of the gray in the background. So what I'm going to do is go into the adjustment brush. So with the adjustment brush, you paint in adjustments in certain areas of your photo. And again, I'm going to put my highlight clipping warning on, and you can up your exposure or you can just up the whites. So what I'm going to do here is kind of cool. I'm going to auto mask. So you click auto mask, choose your brush size. You can change your brush size with the right and left bracket. And I'm just going to start painting over the white parts. So I'm not touching the skate. So I'm just basically painting the backdrop white. Now let's take that clipping warning off. You can see our histogram's really changing too. So there I go. And you can see what a difference it's made already. I'm not sure if you can see all of this on the actual YouTube video, but it's really handy in just knocking out that little bit of extra white in the background. Pop the clipping warning back on, and I can see that this isn't perfectly white yet. And I'm just going to leave it somewhat like that. Now, if you wanted to darken up any of the image, you can do that as well with an adjustment brush. But let's just, for the speed of this video, we'll just leave it as is. Last thing I'll probably do is crop it to square. That's it. I'm ready to export it for my client to put on their website. Here's the before and the after. By the way, if you want to buy any of these vintage skates, check out nerdskates.com. Talk to Roxy. Tell her Marlene sent you.